What I'm about to say is just a fact. Dexter is a serial killer. So there's been a bit of debate about Dexter's dark passenger recently. A few people online have been expressing their thoughts on why Dexter has violent urges, and I want to give a few of my own. While watching this show, I observed that a lot of what Dexter said about himself wasn't true, or at least I believed that this is the case. Particularly in the first season, Dexter pushes this narrative that he is not human, that he can't express or feel emotions in the ways others can, but as we see, this is only partially true. We see Dexter is emotional. He is particularly good with children, which is an emotional skill in itself. He also does feel responsibility in caring for children and the vulnerable in society. While maybe not enjoying social interaction, he does understand how to behave in front of people and can be quite charming. Though, look, he does often fail to understand social cues. He may be a little selfish when it comes to personal relationships, such as that with his sister Deborah, but he does care about her and often is willing to put his dark passenger aside temporarily if she needs help. I mean, my favourite example of this is in season 4 after Lundy gets killed basically. She's waiting in a parking lot and he's partway through killing someone, but she calls him and he comes to her because he can put his dark passenger aside for her, because he cares about her more than his needs. So there are a few theories going around as to why Dexter has the behaviour he does, and I want to discuss the first one, and that is that he has autism. Now look, I can't really diagnose him because there isn't a doctor in this show, and he is a fictional character, so even if I do diagnose him, it'll just be a bit stupid. But what we can do is look at the traits of autism and match them up to how he behaves, and we can make our own judgment, because, you know, I've come up with a few here, and I think for any of those thinking that he doesn't have those traits, I might just change my mind. So the first one, as I already mentioned, is social cues. You know, one that particularly comes to mind is when he's telling the children that him and Rita are having a child, that Rita's pregnant, and he just completely tells them in the wrong way. He doesn't really understand how to communicate through social cues. He doesn't perceive them very well, and that is clearly a trait of autism that he does have. Difficulty keeping conversation. Now, what can I say here apart from I am Switzerland?
Again, Dex, thanks for sticking up for me.
Switzerland.
And I'm out of here.
There are so many little phrases he has just to get himself out at the end of a conversation, and it's pretty clear to me that he does struggle keeping conversation, especially when it's not important to things that he really cares about. Difficulty making friends. Now, this is one that he definitely has. Of course, he does make friends throughout the show. The two that come to mind are brother Sam and Miguel. Obviously, we say that they are his friends. He doesn't keep them for very long. I mean, unfortunately, they both. But other than that, he doesn't really have any real friends throughout the show that we can see. So, I mean, that's quite a broad one, but again, it's a trait of autism. Now, funnily enough here, I've actually put spinning. For those of you who don't know, there are a few compilations of Michael C. Hall just spinning out of the door. Now, I know this is a theatre thing and a bit of a tick, but I think it's quite good for Dexter in showing. Maybe I'm pushing it by saying that's a trait of autism, but I find it quite funny that that was put down on their website, and that is something that he does. And yeah, definitely the main one is how routine he is and his desire for control of his life. Now, what I see Michael C. Hall say in a lot of his interviews is that Dexter, by killing people, what he's actually trying to do is control his life, and he wants to control the social justice system ultimately. And this controlling aspect is something that a lot of autistic people like to do. They like to be able to be in control of their life. They don't like other people interfering or being in charge of things that they should be in control of. That is definitely Dexter something has. When it comes to routine as well, it is mentioned throughout the show how organised he is. You know, even in his job, he's very good at it because he looks at things through a routined way. I mean, that's not very good analysis, to be fair, but you know what I mean. By the way, sorry if I look a bit red. I did just wash my face. I feel like I'm looking bright red. The lighting's quite harsh. I did get new lighting, so let me know if you like it. So what this theory is trying to point out is that obviously Dexter had trauma and his dad Harry is aware of this. What people think is that Harry misunderstood these traits and actually saw them as traits of a psychopath, and thus decided that Dexter will grow up to kill people. And look, it is important to note that Dexter was killing animals, so there were more reasons as to why Harry was thinking that. But also, Harry, when Dexter was a very young age, Harry just sort of decided that one day Dexter's going to kill people. And that is a very drastic decision to make and not get him help for. So Harry is definitely to blame here. I think another thing about autistic people is they are quite trusting, and Dexter especially really trusts his father. So for his father to tell him this is the way you are, Dexter does accept that that is just the way he is. And you can see in the first season of Dexter, if you go and watch it back, a lot of what he says about himself is actually just what his dad said about him. And that's quite an interesting perspective to take, I think. If you go back and watch the show, you'll definitely notice that, I think. Dexter takes his dad at his word, and that's really to his detriment. But let's discuss that he does have psychopathy, because in my opinion, he is autistic, but I do think he is also a psychopath, because look, there is a brain scan in this show, and I mean, I can't read brain scans, but they show that he's missing a part of his brain. And from what I know about brains, that's not a good thing, having a big black hole in your brain. Also, the fact he kills animals at a young age. He mentions he killed the neighbour's dog. Look, if someone killed my dog, I'd be killing them. So yeah, definitely a psycho, definitely not good. They do also bring in Dr. Vogel at one point, and she sort of solidifies this idea that he's a psychopath. I don't like this storyline. I think it was very uneducated for the TV show to bring in a doctor and not really have her express any real theories. The one thing for me that really cements it is his brother and his brother's involvement in the show. In the first season, we see his brother, who witnessed the same murder as him, grows up to be a psychopath. And this sort of shows that, yeah, they are both more susceptible to becoming psychopaths, because of course his brother didn't have Harry's influence in his life. But what you could argue is that he was still very controlled and didn't get caught. I don't know how he managed that. Maybe if they do a spin-off show, we'll find that out. But yeah, please let me know your theories. I'd be really interested to know what people think about this and why people think Dexter is the way he is. I think one thing that's really important to mention is that the writing is really inconsistent throughout the show. I think obviously they have different writers for every season. I think they're undecided as to whether Dexter is a psychopath or whether he is troubled, or I just don't think the writers have good communication with each other on that and have different ideas, which is natural. I'm sure people in the comment section will have different ideas as well. I'd just be really interested to know, so please do let me know. Also, leave a like and subscribe as well. Cheers. I'd really appreciate that. Bye.
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Switzerland.